Good morning, ladies. Happy Monday. Merry Christmas. Happy birthday, Jesus. Today is an awesome day. I hope you ladies are doing well. The evening took you out well. Kiddos, if maybe you've already opened gifts or you're about to here soon, I know we will in a little while. However, wanted to hop on for our last week Bible devotion. Can you believe it? Week 7, day 1 of Journey to Freedom, a Bible study on the life of Moses. And today it asks that we read Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 1 through 40. And today's topic of discussion is responding to the Lord's love. And today's devotion goes like this. Now in the 14th year in the wilderness, Moses and the Israelites stand across from the Jordan River. After battling and overcoming the pagan kings of the region in numbers, they have reached the end of their journey and are in the precipice of the promised land. Because of his disobedience at the rock in Numbers chapter 20, Moses cannot enter Canaan with the people, and his death is approaching. But God calls him to relay last words of encouragement, advice, and warning. Moses recounts how the Lord has protected them from their enemies and carried them to this point. But as Moses explains in the chapter of Deuteronomy, to enjoy the blessing of God's holy land and presence, the Israelites must respond to the Lord's love in obedience, worship, and gratitude. Moses calls the people to listen to the love of God. Such adherence to these statutes will result in taking possession and living in the land God promised. They must not add or take away from any of the Lord's words. The law of God is authoritative, infallible, and true, and that it is. God's love prompts careful attention to his law. His people are watchful over what their actions convey to the world because they are ambassadors for God. The Israelites will be a discerning and wise nation as they live in a way that honors their Savior. The Israelites will also reflect God's love and righteousness to surrounding pagan nations. But Moses knows the people are inclined to forget. They should not only study the law, but also study themselves. Moses states, "Only be on your guard and diligently watch yourselves," referenced in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 9. And for the rest of their lives, they must examine their hearts to prevent wandering. Living in God's love is not passive. It is an active resistance to the pull of sin. And Moses remembers the golden calf incident and urges the people to worship God alone. Because they have not seen the form of the invisible God, other than the visible manifestations of his presence, the people will be tempted to return to idolatry. Though the glory of God resides among them, the lack of sight presents a challenge. They will not look at each other, the creatures of the water and air, and the celestial objects, and be lured to make idols of these images. Forgetting and rejecting the Creator, the people will raise the creatures to divine status and worship them as gods. Moses emphasizes that the Lord has provided these objects as evidence of his power and glory. He is the only one worthy of all worship. The Lord is also jealous, passionate toward his people and wanting to protect them from harm, but God will become angry if they fall into idolatry. Moses then changes this if state to when state. After 40 years with them in the wilderness, he knows the people are rebellious and weak. They will succumb to their desires and will be driven out of the promised land. Because of their failure to worship God, they will fall to enemy nations and be exiles. But in compassion and mercy, the Lord will preserve a remnant and restore them. After all, he is faithful to his covenant promises. Moses tells the people to consider this unique moment in history. There's been no other time before them when God has done such marvelous acts. And God asks, has a people heard God's voice speaking from the fire as you have and lived? Or has a God attempted to go and take a nation as his own out of any other nation, by trials, signs, wonders, and war, by a strong hand and an outstretched arm, by great terrors as the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your eyes? Reference in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 33 to 34. The Israelites' God is great and all-powerful. There is none other like him. He graciously rescued the Israelites from Pharaoh and served them in the wilderness. The Lord loves his people. Receiving this love, the people should live with thanksgiving that God chose them with whom to make his covenant. If the Israelites respond in obedience, worship, and gratitude, they will live abundantly with the presence of God in Canaan for all time. The Israelites' pattern of behavior throughout the wilderness journey will continue despite the Lord's faithfulness. Like the Israelites, we are naturally bound to our sinful nature and repeat our sin struggles. But the reality of sin does not erase the standard and the law that God has for his covenant people. The law is like a mirror showing our brokenness and our moral inability. Though called to obey his word, we are unable to do so in our own capacity. But Jesus, who came as the obedient Son, perfectly kept the law on our behalf. His life, death, and resurrection were the ultimate displays of worship to God the Father. In him we are clothed with his goodness, which erases the debt of sin. In Jesus, we are also transformed to be new creations with desires and the ability to respond appropriately to God's love. Remain steadfast in obedience, worship, and gratitude as God gives you the grace to do so. And that's it for today's devotion, ladies. We have 3 questions. In what ways would you guard and watch yourself to prevent wandering from God? Second question, how does this passage make you aware of the need to respond in obedience, worship, and gratitude to God's love? And last question, write out a prayer of thanksgiving for the saving work of Jesus. And that is all for today's devotion, ladies. It's awesome. I'm coming back to the wrap. I love doing this stuff with you guys. If you have any questions, send me a message. I know quite a few of you have spoken. Awesome to always hear from you. Stay blessed. Be careful. Stay safe. Bye.